Now then, guys, how are we doing?
Oh, you right?
Hello.
The magic of Zoom. Let's see how well this goes. I presume we might have a couple more people coming into the chat yet. I'm just going to actually stop that share for a minute. See all your pretty faces. Who've we got? Let's have a look. Oh, Joanne's here. She's been excited all day. Hi, Joanne.
Buzzing.
How's everyone's day been? All right?
Yeah, all right.
Busy.
Turn off my music in the background because you don't want to be hearing that all the way through, do you? Here we go.
They didn't like this so much though.
That's better. Everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
difficult Zoom, you don't you get little nods and little waves. Do
How are you feeling, Mark?
you know what? I feel fantastic. I'm lying.
Good.
No, I'm on the mend anyway. Let's say that. I don't know if you can tell I've got a bit of a cold. We'll call it a bit of a cold. More people will call it cold vid. But yeah, I'll get over it. I'll motor on for everyone's benefit today.
Is it worse than man flu?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. No, do you know what? Started on Monday. What we on Thursday? I'm definitely on the right side of it now, so we're all good. No, but Joe, thanks for your time tonight. I know
You're welcome.
it's out of hours for you, isn't it?
It's fine, honestly. I have no official hours. It just depends what comes up, so it's fine.
Oh, bless you. I'm just going to share screen with everybody. And at the same time, just to start with, I'm just going to mute everyone. If I want to unmute anyone, I'll request that somebody unmutes themselves, if you don't mind. It just makes it easier to... Oh, I've got the kids coming in. That's what happens with Zoom. You get all the professional side of things, kids coming in saying hello. So yeah, I'll mute everyone. And if I want to unmute someone, I'll just ask you to unmute yourself. Just get a bit of input from yourself as you go through as well. Okay, great. So firstly, welcome to the first Sharpen Your Saw Advisor event. We call it Sharpen Your Saw because of the 7 habits of fortune. It's our 7th habit. It's all about making yourself better, not just in business, in life, with regards to your lifestyle, with regards to your health, whether that's physical, mentally, but more importantly, it's about doing a proper job. And that's my saying. You'll get to know that. I'll probably say it 10 times tonight. What you can do it as well at the end of tonight, if you've got any questions, stay on the Zoom and I'll spend one-to-one time with you up until midnight. Don't worry about that. I'm sure you don't want to do that though. But if you do, I'll spend a bit of time with you answering a few questions. And of course, we can then continue via phone, Zoom again, face-to-face beyond tonight. So let's get going. Firstly, I want to say a huge welcome. We've got 7 new advisors joining the team in January, which is amazing. I believe most of you, should we say, are on the call tonight. So thank you so much for joining the event. Of course, we're recording the event as well. So for any reason you can't jump on a Thursday evening, then of course we will record the events and we'll get them over to you to have a watch. We'll also upload them to the YouTube channel. So anything you see tonight and you feel you want to have a look back on, by all means, jump on the YouTube channel. I'll send the links out as well on Advisor Chat. And by all means, have a watch of them in your own time as well. No, but welcome to Glenn, Lizzie, Barry, Anu, Rachel, Mega, and Laura. I know Laura can't make it tonight, but she'll be on the next ones. And really for you guys, I suppose it's an exciting opportunity for you now to build a career in financial services. And I believe you're joining an amazing team where you're going to get real good guidance and support, and we're going to make you all superstars. I think that's my plan. Now, with regards to, yourselves and your team, you're all in different, I suppose, places with regards to where you are at the moment. Some are inexperienced, some are inexperienced with qualifications, and some have, advised before. But the purpose of these events are to really find out what you want. So put anything in the chat if you want to ask any questions. Of course, I will unmute you as well, or request to unmute if you want to like chip in at any point. But for me, it's really a matter of giving you value. And I think that's the most important thing. And if we give you value that you can take away and implement into your own personal way of advising, and of course, learning and sharpening your own saw, then of course, as an advisor, you just become better at what you do. And I'm a big believer of that. So everyone will know, not you newbies, but everyone in my business who's been with me for a while, that I love a quote. And some quotes are a lot of rubbish, but some of them are very good. And I seen this one today and I thought I'm going to start with this one. And excuse the French, but it says, know your shit or know you are shit. So what I'm talking about there is, you know, as an advisor, you've got to advise. You've got to have knowledge. You've got to understand what you're talking about. And if you're a good person, which I believe everyone is who's joining the team or is currently with the team, and you've also got that product knowledge and advisor knowledge to be able to relate to your clients, the two come hand in hand, and you never even need to make a sale again in your life, because you'll build a trust with your clients. They'll understand that you know your shit. Now, if you don't practice your trade, whether that's getting on these events, whether it's being proactive and, you know, getting on the advisor chat, the Facebook groups we've got, the provider websites, speaking to business development managers like Joe, who's on the call tonight, and really just improving your trade, then with all due respect, know you are a shit. It means that you probably don't know your stuff. So that will come to tuition with any client. And the worst situation to be in is when a client asks you a question and it's something very simple, but you just don't know the answer to it. So you've got to spend time on yourself. And of course, I don't just mean from a perspective of learning by means of products and services. I mean, spend time on yourself building by means of your confidence, your physical health, your mental health. Make sure you're doing this job in the right way, that you're going to benefit from it. Because some people enjoy the flexibility of the job, but then they forget, because it's so easy. They've got the green light to do what they want when they want, but you know, they don't put enough time into it. And what I would say is treat it like a professional job, because it is exactly that. So take that one away with you today. I'm not sure if you've heard that one before. It's either know your shit or know you are shit. So you'll have watched the training event with regards to the recruitment, and you guys that, you know, approached us and directly approached us and you were proactive enough to do so. Don't get me wrong, we had over 200 applicants in January to join the team for protection or mortgage advisor status. Now, we didn't interview 200 people. We just filed CVs. We wasn't interested until somebody physically sent us a message, dropped us an email, give us a call and said they were interested. That's being proactive for me. Now, what I want to do is I just want to ask someone to unmute themselves for each one here. I'm going to pick on a few people if you don't mind me asking. So being proactive, I'm going to ask you, what does that mean with regards to your job? Can I pick on Shannon, because you've just come on the call? Unmute yourself, Shannon.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. So we just talk about the 7 habits of fortune.
Yeah.
Number 1 for us is being proactive. Can you give me an example of what we mean by that?
Being proactive is getting yourself out there. It's going for it, and really kind of, you know, getting your to-do list done, and just your work ethic, really.
Brilliant. You want to mute yourself, that's great. So proactive is, you know, thinking ahead. It's being ahead of the game. It's understanding where you want to be, but then what you need to do to get to that place and getting on with it. Number 2 is begin with the end in mind. You know, you've got to have a plan, haven't you? Can I unmute Glenn? I know you're on the call, Glenn.
Hi, you all right?
How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Brilliant. So we've got habit number 2, which is begin with the end in mind. It's about having a plan. What do you know about having a plan, and, you know, how do you plan to, you know, move forward with your career now and you know, improve yourself?
I like to set goals. I like to set goals. I like to aim higher than what I think I can get, because, well, as like I say, think I can get, as in I like to aim for that plus push more.
Brilliant. I love it.
That's what
Thank
I like
you.
to do anyway.
Brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, you spot on there. Have goals. They're going to be short-term goals, long-term goals. They don't always have to be realistic goals. Someone once told me that your goal should never be achieved. Your main goal should never be achieved. A lot of people have a goal and a vision that they want to, be sat on a beach drinking alcohol. Now, that's firstly going to last about 10 seconds because you're going to down the drink. And also you're just going to intoxicate your body. So beyond that, what's the plan beyond that drink? And a lot of people forget about that. It's a vision of having a luxury lifestyle. But again, your plan should be far, far away from you. And then you should break it down into small stints. So habit number 3 is, put first things first. What do we mean by that? Kaylee, have I got you on the call?
I'm here.
Hey, how you feeling?
Awful. Excuse the look. This is COVID territory.
No comment. Not well.
You've got to prioritize, and that's not just like your business things first. You've also got to put yourself first, because if you don't have that mindset first, you're not gonna be motivated to do those things. So you've got to prioritize everything that will get you to your end goals.
Brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, habit 3 for us, it contradicts itself slightly because we say you should put work first and play. Really what we should say is that you should plan in your year, especially, excuse me, for your holidays, the breaks you're going to have, the incentives you're going to give yourself, but then get to the job and work towards them so that you're not on a hamster wheel. It doesn't continue going. You actually reward yourself when you get to whatever point you want to be at. So of course, beginning and end in mind, number 2 is having a plan. Then number 3 is implementing that plan and getting to it. And when you get there, have that reward. And number 4, think win-win. Anu, I believe you've come on the call.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you? Are you good?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good, thank you.
Fabulous.
I hope you're better.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. I'm getting there.
Oh, good. So for me, think win-win is finding a solution for my client that meets their needs, and at the same time expanding the client base through maybe word of mouth because they're happy with the service that's being given.
Brilliant. Great answer. So yeah, if you put your clients first in what you do as a day-to-day job, especially as an advisor, is that you're going to win. You've got to think, what is it they want from you? Not is it what you think they need? And this brings us on to number 5 very well. It's to seek first to understand and to be understood. I'm going to quickly jump on this one and say, basically what it means is, we've given 2 ears and 1 mouth. And sometimes it's better to listen to your clients than to talk with regards to what what could be right for them, your product knowledge, listen to what they want, what they need, and that need will be established. And then, as you just said there, Anu, you'll do a great job by winning for them as well at the same time. So I'm going to skip number 5, bring on to synergize, and I'm going to pick Megha. Meg, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I hope everyone is better now.
Oh, bless you.
Synergize. If I put in my own words and my own opinion, synergize means in a cooperative way, put as a team and just work together to make the aim fulfill and optimize the goals and the results.
Absolutely. Great answer. Thank you. So I've talked about the team many a times this year, and over the last 10 years for me, it's been about building a great team at Fortune. Now we're bringing great people into that team. And what I would say to everyone on the call tonight is trust the team that are around you, but not only trust them, I want you to be proactive with working with them. Pick up the phone, drop them an email, discuss things with them on the advisor chat. That's what it's there for. And what you'll find is the job will become so much easier because you'll speak to people that are there to help you. You'll speak to people that have had them experiences before and know the answers. And that's not just regards to your exams. And also they'll have the product knowledge to be able to support you with regards to, what's right for your customers and how you can build your career. by means of being the director of the business, you know, I can give you a lot of input, but what you'll find is that how I work is different to how Kaylee works, different to how Cade works, different to how Emma works. So reaching out to the team and speaking to different members of the team and working collectively as a team, you're going to find that you're going to get a lot done, and a lot done more productively as well. Last one, number 7. Of course, we've named the event tonight, Sharpen the Saw. I'm going to come to Barry. Barry, you there? Barry? Not sure if he's there. Maybe he's dropped off. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Joanne on the spot. Joanne, come on. You can
That's
tell me
just
what
cruel.
Sharpen the Saw means, can't you?
It's doing a proper job.
You do a proper job. I love it. So how do you do a proper job? Sharpen the Saw essentially is getting to the nitty gritty of keep improving yourself day to day.
Yeah.
Now you've got to look at, as an advisor, there's so much to learn, so much to develop and improve on yourself throughout your career. And you can never know everything from day one. So the best way of learning, I believe, is by doing the job. Now, when you're doing the job, of course, you're going to pick up experiences, you're going to pick up new knowledge, you're going to get to, you know, communicate with other people in similar situation. And that's really important. Put yourself in circles around certain people and reach out to people that can help you and improve you. Don't hang around with people that are negative. Don't hang around with people that, you know, pull you back and don't believe in what you want to do. Put yourself in the right circles and improve yourself a little bit every single day. And then by the end of the week, the month, the year, 5 years into your career, you'll be fantastic. So that's what Sharpening the Saw is all about. That's what these events are all about. With so much information we can give you over these events. And you're going to find out by the end of today even that we've given you some value somewhere. And I'm sure Joe's going to give you value in a minute. But by means of what's going to come after Joanne as well, it's going to give you some value. Now, of course, we need to build on that and give you more information on that, but it's definitely going to give you a snippet of really understanding what the advising side of things is around protection mainly. And then, of course, we can discuss coming on to mortgages in the future as well. Thanks, Joanne. Come on. So we can get me slides to work. I apologize. Let me just stab the share and go again. There we go. So the fabulous Joanne Legg from LV. Thank you so much for tonight. Before we even get going, really appreciate your time. You should be watching Hollyoaks now, shouldn't you?
No. No.
What's your program of choice?
God, that's a great question.
Judge a lot from people.
Do you know what? Gogglebox.
Gogglebox, I like that.
Love a bit of Gogglebox. It's the one thing that I actually make a point of sitting down to watch.
I love it. Well, what I'm going to do, Joy, is I'm going to mute myself, which is a blessing for a lot of people, I'm sure. And I'm going to let you crack on, and we're all going to learn from you. So again, thanks for your time.
Set the expectations high today, Mark.
Absolutely.
No pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And
can I just ask before you mute yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
I totally look like I'm rocking a halo.
Yes.
Don't I? I think I'm no, obviously not. But you know, I think I'm pulling this halo off quite well. Would you mind making me the host so that I can share a few things?
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Thank you.
Let's have a look. There you go. You're on.
Legend. Thank you very much. So, guys, yeah, firstly, thank you all for having me join your meeting this evening. I think before I get started, I guess, you know, to firstly introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. So I'm your business development manager at LV for anything protection related. So ultimately, I'm your dedicated point of contact. So, you know, if you go back through, you know, the 7 habits of fortune that Mark was just talking you all through, you know, sharing best practice, working with me, being proactive, getting in touch. I can help you in terms of product knowledge, overcoming objections, keeping you up to date with what's going on in the market. So, you know, a lot of what he said, I can really help support each one of those steps. So do use me to your advantage. I will make sure that you all get my contact details and so forth moving forward. Just slightly out of what I want to cover off with you all this evening, I just wanted to say for those of you that are new, from a personal point of view, you genuinely have joined a fantastic company. Mark, Kaylee, Shannon, they really are fantastic. Not only are you part of probably the best network in the UK, being Primis, my personal opinion, and I support probably 3,500 firms across the UK. Fortune, genuinely, hand on heart, is my favorite. Mark, you know that. I'm not just saying it. I absolutely love the ethos of the firm. You know, so just have that confidence that you have really joined a fantastic company, that you are going to get that support from your network. You are going to get that support from Mark, Shannon, Cade, Kaylee, you know, for the guys that are more experienced. So draw on their experience, draw on their knowledge, because you really will learn a lot from them. So yeah, that was just slightly off of plan, but I just wanted to let you know that I think you have genuinely you know, joined a really, really good company, and you've got some fantastic opportunities. So what I plan to go through with you all this evening, some of this is going to actually cross over quite nicely with the 7 Habits of Fortune. So I'm going to share some slides, but I'm not particularly going to use these to sort of read at you. I'm just going to pull out a few things. I appreciate everyone is at different levels. So especially for Kaylee and Shannon, I apologize. Some of this you've heard from me before, but I think, you know, going back to the 7 Habits of Fortune, it's always good to revisit things and just make sure that your knowledge is up to speed. We all get into routines, and sometimes there's things that can be forgotten. So the purpose of the next sort of 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I'm going to talk you through some different areas around introducing protection into your conversations. I'm not going to focus too much on product today because I think that would be an information overload. So it's all about sharing best practice. So, you know, the synergy and so on. What's going to help you overcome objections. And I'm going to show you a few calculators that are available online to really support your conversations. So what I would say is, as your BDM, I don't expect you to remember all of this today. And, you know, like Mark was saying, when you're doing the job, you know, that's when you're really going to start to learn. So if we need to revisit this and go through certain scenarios and things, you know, use me to your advantage. Okay. So I'm going to open up for an answer. Kaylee, Shannon and Mark, if I can ask that you guys don't answer this question, if you don't mind, but would anyone like a guess as to when you think you should start talking about protection products to your clients? If anyone has an idea, and there's no right or wrong answer here, but if anyone wants to unmute themselves and give me an answer.
Maybe I can try.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, my name is Anu, and I think protection products are important throughout the life cycle, but more particularly, I think certain products such as income protection might be useful for someone who is working, has a young family to support, and if they have a mortgage, and if he were to stop working or she were to stop working, that can create a problem. So that might be one protection they might want.
Definitely.
They have a mortgage, they might want a protection for their life insurance, which is connected to the mortgage, which is a cover in case the main breadwinner were to die. At least the mortgage is covered. So that's another maybe situation where a mortgage protection might be good.
Fantastic, thank you. And Anu, can I ask, when do you think you would start talking about those contracts with clients? So do you think it would be perhaps once you've got the mortgage offer? Would you introduce them earlier than that? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here.
I think once they're proceeding with the mortgage, when we got the mortgage offer, or even at the preliminary stage when we're discussing about the mortgage and about the risk probably,
Yeah.
and also discussing their situation. I mean, they might not feel the need for it, but at least alerting them to that probably issue, which they might not have thought.
Yeah.
Bring it to their attention, and then ask them whether that is something they might want to consider, along, maybe not immediately, maybe later, but at some point it might be a good conversation to have.
Fantastic. Thank you for being brave enough to put yourself out there. As I said, there's no right or wrong answer at all. I'm just trying to get people thinking about when they would start talking about the protection contracts. So ultimately, as I said, there is no right or wrong answer. But from successful protection advisors and looking at their processes, talking about protection is just as important during that initial fact find as what it is throughout that journey. So I'm going to give you a couple of ideas to really look at how you might be able to implement those conversations in preparation for your fact find. So it's all for me about sharing best practice, what's working well for other advisors. And like you mentioned, I know, they might not feel that they need the protection, but it's our job to make that a visual, make that a reality for them, and make them see that risk and actually that they do need it. So when preparing for initial meetings, you're going to be asking your clients for certain documentation. So there'll be things like their bank statements, wage slips, Experian credit reports, that type of thing. So as I said, what is working well for other advisors is to ask for some documentation that's going to support your protection discussions. So the first thing you can be asking for is a copy of your client's employment contract. Now, that is doing there is when they're providing that employment contract for you, you can now actually have a full review of what their sick pay is with their employer. Kaylee, Shannon, you can back me up on this, I'm sure. Most clients don't know what they get in terms of sick pay, or they think they get a lot more than what they do. Bless them, I used a lot of my friends actually as guinea pigs, and they still to this day don't know. I was asked, like, they think that their entitlement, that isn't necessarily the case. So from you getting that one piece of information, when you're talking about protection and specifically income protection here, you now have how long your client will get sick pay for from their employer. So you can have that conversation, challenge them if they feel that they get more than what their contract states. And by that way, you're making it a reality. So, you've worked hard to get this mortgage, you've worked hard to make sure your credit score is in a comfortable position. I can see here from your employment contract, you only get 1 month sick pay. So what are we going to do after that? How are you going to pay your mortgage? So you're turning it around on your client, but you're getting them to think about the reality of what would happen and actually how they would keep up with those payments. So another area that you can ask your clients in terms of documentation, and a little tip for you here, never ever abbreviate this one, but ask your client to produce you with a copy of their life, critical illness and income protection contract. So you might think, why are we doing that? They probably don't have one. And that is the whole purpose. So they're going to go away. They've had, an email from you or a conversation with yourself. They've written everything down. They'll be ticking off everything, really pleased. They've got everything they need. They are then going to come to contracts that we all know the chances are they don't have, especially if they're first-time buyers. They're not going to have that. So what you are doing is changing your client's mindset before they've even come to that meeting with you. So Kaylee, an example, I'm your client. Kaylee needed this documentation and I don't have it. What is it? So then when Kaylee starts talking about these things with me, trust me from experience, rather than getting the brick wall, they're now thinking about what they're doing that evening, or if they've got a weekend out with friends, because we're not talking shiny new mortgage anymore, it will raise alarm bells and it will be okay, that was the documents that Kaylee needed. What are they? So you're engaging your client before you've even actually had that initial discussion with them. Okay. So as I said earlier, for us, it is about building a picture and making things a reality. So ask your client certain questions that's going to get them thinking. And what I would always say, and I like to remind advisors of this, is don't be afraid, to control the conversation. Okay, your clients have come to you for your expert advice. We all know, unfortunately, in this day and age, if you're confident enough, you could pretty much do a mortgage yourself online. No, you're not going to get maybe, the best rates in the market, but you could certainly get one from your high street bank. And people, unfortunately, can again source protection contracts online, but is it the right cover for them? Have they done enough cover? There's all that uncertainty. So ultimately, your clients need you. So don't be backing. What I'd say is there's going to be a long silence. Don't try and fill that silence. Let the client think. And it goes back to one of the 7 habits of fortune that Mark mentioned earlier. Listen to your client. So don't feel like you have to, bring in lots of conversation. Let them think about what would stop them from working. They might say nothing, never had a day sick in my life. The only time I've not worked is when I'm on holiday. That's great. Acknowledge that, brilliant. However, what could stop you? Eventually, they are going to start thinking along the lines of, I could be off sick, I might have an accident, I could be made redundant, I might have to look after a loved one, an elderly loved one, for example. All of those scenarios are going to start coming to fruition. So then your opportunity there is to explain to your client how you can help them in terms of certain scenarios. So this is when you would start talking about the income protection, critical illness cover, and how that can help them in that eventuality. And by asking your client what would stop them from working and them telling you, they are admitting to you that there are things that can happen that would stop them from getting that income. So once you've got that commitment from them and you've explained, that there are contracts that we can put in place to help them against those eventualities, ask your client what's their budget. And Mark does a lot of fantastic marketing on things like this around, different questions to be asking. And I love all the updates that he does. And there's some really good questions. So still use those. I'm not saying use mine. With maximum. Okay, so now you've come away and you've got, say, a budget between £50 and £80 a month. So then use me to help you. I'm more than happy to do a variation of quotes, and we can do what we call the skiing downhill process, which I'll talk to you all once you're further within your training and different options of cover. But ultimately, I will help you make sure that you've got quotes that come in under the £50 and then the quotes within that 50 to 80. So by getting that commitment from your client at the beginning in terms of budget, you have now stopped any price objection later on down the line, because they've confirmed to you how much they're willing to spend, and you've got a package that will protect them against the things that they've told you could stop them from working, and it's come in with their budget. I can just see that I've got a question, so I'm just going to have a little look. Mark, is that from you?
Yeah, I'm just rambling on because I've been gagged. I'm not allowed to speak. I thought I'd use the chat instead.
That's cool. We can pick that up in a moment as a group if you like. So does anyone have any questions at all or anything so far before we look at a few more slides? No, I'll take the silence as a no, but if anyone does have anything, please unmute yourself and just fire the questions at me as we go along. So I spoke earlier around making it a reality for clients. Now, a lot of people can be visual. I'm a typical visual person. If my husband reads something to me that's important, I always have to interrupt and say, look, let me read it myself. Let me look at this to understand it. And a lot of your clients are going to be in that same position. So our job, not only is it to make it a reality, but to also explain these contracts to clients, because they don't work in our environment. They might not fully understand what it is you're talking about. So you can see on the slide here, we've got a virtual game of Jenga. And around that game, at the start, it's what your clients have to pay. And then as you go around the game, it becomes more of your lifestyle. So if you imagine all of those blocks were in the game, and me and Mark, for example, were having a virtual game of Jenga, and I removed the bottom block from that game, we all know what is going to happen to the blocks above it. So this is a really good visual aid, and I will share some slides with you so that you've got this type of thing to work with your client. But it's a really good visual aid to show your client that they are the most valuable asset in their property. Okay, if your client is going to work, they need to make sure that they're protecting their income. If they have a mortgage, they need to make sure that, you know, they are protecting the mortgage. So in terms of that reality, having that visual makes it much easier for your client to understand. Oh, Anu, can you see the slides okay?
Yes, now I can. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Apologies, I don't know what happened there. Can everyone else see the slides? Can you just give me a thumbs up? Excellent. So we've talked about where would you start. So ultimately, in terms of that protection conversation, it really is at the very beginning in preparation for the fact find. We've talked about overcoming objections in terms of, you know, budgets and what their maximums are, different options, skiing annual process and so forth. So before we have a quick look at just a couple of sales tools, I just want to focus a little bit around some of the 7 habits of fortune, and it goes back to what Mark was saying, and it really is practice. Practice the conversations, whether you do it with each other. I'm more than happy to play the role of client on a Zoom or a call, so use me to your advantage. And really think about the words that you're using. So again, going back to the 7 habits, being really positive has a massive impact on your client. Okay, if you're being positive about these contracts, it's going to, you know, replicate to them. As humans, we can all get easily hung up on objections. Okay, so think about the words that you counteract that. So have something from someone or something. So it's the same principle. It's about what you can offer your client. So just be really positive with those words. And I can't remember if it was Kaylee or Shannon. It might have been both of you, but we definitely talked about this in the past. And one thing that does work really well, and what you will notice the more and more that you see mortgage documentation, is their play of words, and it's a really good play of words. So ultimately, your client has come to you for a mortgage, that they don't see that as a mortgage, that's their home. So by making your conversation personal will have a bigger impact on your client. So looking around on the Zoom at the moment, I think pretty much everyone's working from home. I know that obviously Mark and Kaylee certainly are, because you're unfortunately poorly. But you know, I've got say unwell impact, you should, be severely unwell or pass away. Instead, talk about keeping your client in their home. It will have a much better impact. And as I mentioned, mortgage lenders do this fantastically. Every piece of literature, your home is at risk if you do not keep up with your mortgage payment. So what they're doing is making it personal from the start. And there's one golden nugget question that Mark, I don't know if you were there. It was one of the Vox events that I attended. I was gutted we didn't go this year because I wanted to jump on that. So you might have been there actually, but I can't remember who the guy was. It wasn't a guest speaker. It was someone within Primis.
Okay.
And he was up on the stage, talking about all the fantastic things like they always do, and sharing some really great ideas. And it was just one golden question that really stood out for me. And the question is, what is the objection for not needing an income? And if you think about it, if you're working, there is no objection because you're working for a reason. Absolutely. Let's face it, if we didn't all need to work, I 100%, sorry, Mark, but I would be the one that sat on the beach thinking about the next 5 minutes and what cocktail I'm having, not what's going to happen 2 hours later. But, ultimately, if you're working, then you need an income, whether that's through income protection, family income benefit should you pass away, critical illness, clear that mortgage. So that is the golden question. And I really would encourage you all to be asking your client that question, because I promise you, when you say what's the objection for not needing one, they will not have an answer.
I believe Anu's got a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Anu, I can see that you've got a question for me.
Yes, so I was talking to someone who's potentially a client. She is in that case, from what I know, because I've only just started studying the protection thing, but if you have a condition, you can't then have an income protection, right? So I did suggest that. I said, to secure your future, then your income, how are you thinking about it? Will they have assets and other things? Then the question was, but if I'm already having a situation, then I don't think I'll get an income protection.
Of course, and I wouldn't say necessarily you won't get income protection. So each provider has different underwriting criteria, okay? So it could be that either ourselves or another provider could offer income protection, but there might be what we call an exclusion to that particular condition. But it's very much dependent on the impact to that client's life, how well it's managed, what was the cause, is there family history. So there's a lot of medical things behind the scenes, but it doesn't mean that they won't necessarily can't have income protection. It might just be that they would not be able to claim if it was for that particular condition.
Yeah, but what if they're stopping the job now? So then they don't have a job.
Then if they're not working, they could have it. So I don't advise too much with product today, but ours would be if you're unable to cook a meal or do the basic housework, which, to be honest, if you could see outside my office at the moment, my husband would probably challenge I should be claiming on Homemaker's Cover because the house is just an absolute tip. But yeah, ultimately, cover.
Okay, yes, this is correct. I had the conversation with one of my friends when I introduced myself that I'm starting this venture. She was quite interested. Huge response so far from all the well, but this is the couple of questions that I was asked, and I was speechless because I'm new.
Of
They just
course.
simply had, we are getting all the benefits from our workplace,
Yeah.
like pension, healthcare, and all the things is covered in our workplace. We don't need to do anything because the employer is paying everything.
Okay. So
But on the other hand, there's the
sorry.
self-employed people. Sorry, I'm just dragging it little further. There are self-employed people who just come across that, okay, we are very happy to go for it, but how I can be sure that our provider won't object if we are going through the self-employed contract cut in between. So what do you say about this thing?
In
What I
terms of
can
the
answer?
self-employment, there would be no challenge on that at all. So that wouldn't be an issue. From the point of view with your, was it your friend you mentioned that has all of the protection from her place of work?
Yeah, I have some friends like yeah, I have lots of friends in nearby area. So I just discussed when I started that what do you think?
course.
They just simply say, "Nida, we will refer you. We will of course want to help you."
What I
To
would
Absolutely. What I would say, is that an employer benefit plan, let's say a death in service policy, it'll pay out when you get hit by a red bus at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It never does what it says on the tin. So the best way of looking at an employer plan is that it's offered by your employer's paying for it. It's a great incentive to have along with your income. But at the same time, if you was to leave that role tomorrow, next week, next year,
Yeah.
you'll lose all them benefits.
And
So
that's what I was going to say as well.
yeah, and the fact you're not paying for any of these benefits means, well, surely you should have some elements of personal protection in the background as well. Because employer benefits will potentially do a job for you. They might give you a year's salary, 2 years' salary, but actually, is that enough? So we need to look at it from another perspective of, listen, let's look at it so you know for peace of mind for you and your family that your mortgage debt's covered, you've got a multiple of salary over and above, you know it's going to pay out, God forbid, if you pass away, not just for the likes of accidental death, but for full death cover, terminal illness. So employer, basically, in a nutshell, employer benefits are great, but what I would say is it's a cheap alternative. And when it comes to security for you and your family, nobody wants cheap. People want quality. And that's where it's worthwhile setting money aside. So you've got policies like LV's plans that are actually going to do something that, it says in the terms and conditions, if you make a claim, it pays out. I wouldn't be putting my trust into any employer policy. I'd definitely be going for, personal policies.
And I think just to add on to what Mark was saying, that sort of ties in around, asking for that employment contract. You can actually have a proper look at, what the client is getting in terms of those benefits. So it could be 3 times salary. Well, is 3 times that client's salary going to clear the mortgage? Probably not. The average UK salary is about, I think it's £26,500. I think the last time I did some data analysis. If you've got a mortgage for 250,000, what's going to happen if you pass away? Yep. And what you've also got to bear in mind, that could be deemed as, income or, to cover all the additional outgoings for your loved one should you pass away, because the bills still need to be paid, that type of thing. And something to also check, and this is purely through experience that I've seen with my brother since COVID, is that these benefits are not contractual. So your employer can remove them at any stage. And also, like Mark said, and I was going to say the same, especially in this day and age, people don't necessarily stay at the same company for 35 years like they did, 20 odd years ago. They might have a career change. They might, have a family and situations change. I really wouldn't be relying on what work is providing, if I'm honest.
When you think of an objection of I've got employer benefits, the best answer to a client when they bring that up is immediately to agree with them and tell them, that's brilliant. That's amazing. You've got that. So what have you got? Let's have a look at what you've got from your employer. And then if they turn around and say, okay, I've got 6 months full pay if I'm out of work. Okay, great. So you can survive for 6 months. You're going to get your pay. But what happens if you're out of work for the next 2 years? Where does that situation look for you? because your employer's now going to pay for 6 months. You just told me that. But what's going to happen now beyond that 2-year period? Does that look bad for you? Well, yeah, it does actually. So the income protection policies, like the likes of LV's personal sick pay, we can put deferment periods. So the policy doesn't actually kick in for 6 months because you've got your employer benefit in the background. But then this policy will kick on beyond that to ensure you've got that extra financial stability in the background as well, whether that be for a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years, or even up until retirement. And as Joy, you said before, you know, you tend to protect yourself up until retirement. That's where people are financially stable, and that's why they're ending the job. That's why they're now retiring, because they don't need that financial stability, so they don't need the protection in place. So for me, employer benefits, and obviously we'll come away from this now, we can go into more detail individually, but employer benefits are great. I always agree with the clients that, you know, brilliant, you've got that, but then break down, you know, what have you got? Let's have a look at what you've got, and is it actually doing the job for you? And then build on top of that.
Thanks, Mark. And Anu, great question. Of government. Give me a thumbs up. Excellent. Thank you very much. So we have created a bespoke Fortune Financial risk reality calculator. I think it looks quite cool, to be honest, with your logo up there. Naturally, we do have a little plug, but it's right at the bottom. But we'll just bypass that for now. So the risk reality calculator, so if you were to access this on LV's advisor site, you would get our branded version, but Mark has the copy of the Fortune Financial one, and I'm sure he's got some big plans for that. So I won't jump all over that one now, but basically what this is going to do is pull from claim statistics. So it's not what's happening at LV, it's actually what's happening in the UK as a whole. Okay, so this is across the industry, and this data is refreshed every 4 hours, so it's live. So when talking to your clients about protection, and like you mentioned earlier, Anu, you know, around them saying that they don't feel they need it, this type of calculator is really going to help your clients see that they do. So you pop in very basic information. Kaylee, I'm going to use your name. Okay, so nothing that's going to breach GDPR. Here you can see you've got the client's age, so I'm going to make you 23, Kaylee. Gender, smoking status, and what age they want to retire. And again, this fits in just with what Mark was saying in terms of, you know, typically at retirement, you are in more financial stability. So if you had a joint application, you'd pop in both details, but just for today, I'm going to pop in just the one person. Count, for example, the chances of death, and then the likelihood of ultimately your client calling you and saying, you know, those insurance policies we went through, I now need to claim. So if you click on the drop down, it shows your client where this information came from. And then it asks the question, you know, and it goes back to what Mark was saying. And again, I think with what I was saying earlier, you know, don't be afraid to ask those questions and put that onus on the client. So how would you financially cope? Get them thinking, you know, we already now know that they've only got 2 months sick pay. So what's going to happen after that? Ask those questions. And then the backup plan is your income protection. So you've got here, you know, how you can overcome that chance of being unable to work for 2 months or more. So then here with your serious illness, the same principle. So this would be your critical illness cover. How would they financially cope? What would happen long term? And what the backup plan is. And then again, with your death, this is your life cover. Okay, so just scrolling down here, you've got support for you in terms of those objection handling. So I would suggest have a little look at these, get yourself familiar with them, so that when your clients are giving you these types of objections, it goes back to the 7 Habits of Fortune. Do your homework, be prepared, know your stuff ultimately. So Anu, on your question about the state benefit, you think the state would help? Let's have a little look. So yeah, they will. They'll give you a maximum of £96.35 a week, and that is a maximum. So not all clients are entitled to that full amount for no more than 28 weeks. So as it says here, not everyone is eligible for some form of sick pay from the state. And if you have a little look, and I mean, this was based on April 2020. With inflation now, I hate to think what the average UK spend is on a weekly food shop. But in 2020, the UK family average was £63.70 a week. Now, I definitely spend more than that, and it's just me and my husband. So you can change around CBR, but getting thinking actually that my maths isn't great, but that's going to leave me nearly £30 a week. Well, what about the bills? What about getting the kids to school? What about the Netflix subscription, the pet insurance, the mobile phone contract, all of those things, the car insurance? If your client can't insure their car, how are they going to get to work? How are they going to get about? It could be that one person's off sick, one's at work, that type of thing. So it really opens up the conversation for you to drive. And then here you've got a few other things in terms of, objections. So it could be, policies don't pay out. It gives you some really good claim statistics. Okay. So if you click Save Print Report, it will produce all of this into a PDF for you. And again, that PDF will have your branding. So with that PDF, you can email it, you can save it, you can print it. You could even do this live with your client, whether it's face-to-face or over a Zoom. Okay. And then the last calculator I wanted to show you was our income shortfall calculator. So can everyone see that? Can you just give me a thumbs up? Brilliant. So again, based on, be generous and say that Kaylee gets 3 months sick pay. Okay, now that is generous in the employed world. So again, basic information, nothing that's going to breach GDPR. Now, I love this one because I'm really visual, as I mentioned earlier. This produces your clients with a visual of how it's going to hurt them financially. So the blue line at the top is what your client receives on a monthly basis based on that salary after their tax, pension, and national insurance contribution. The green line, after your 3 months sick pay, shows what they're going to receive with income protection. And then the red line at the bottom shows your client what they would receive if they're entitled to maximum state support. So this is a great opening question for you to say to your client, between that blue and red line, that gap. You can talk how would you bridge that gap between the blue and the red line?
How would you bridge it? I suppose savings
how would
is an
you
answer,
bridge
isn't
it?
it?
Yeah. So how long is your savings going to last?
Not very long, if we're honest. Maybe a few months. Absolutely.
There you go. So what are you going to do after that? Are you going to lose your home, or are we going to
I suppose the answer you're going to get from a client is going to be, I'll bank a mum and dad. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'll go to my parents, they'll help me, or I'll sell my house. It's all unrealistic answers that they give you, but there isn't an answer, is there? No, absolutely not.
Exactly. So by using this, it's a great visual aid to show your client actually the difference in terms of what they would receive. If you scroll down here again, it just backs up the exact figures for the different types of support. And then if you click Save Print Report, I'll just load that up. Not only do you get the personalized graph, But down here, it shows your client what it means on a monthly basis financially. So with income protection, your client would be £61 a month worse off. Now, let's face it, you could cancel Netflix and not go out for a meal or a takeaway every other week or every week, whatever the case may be. £61, if you were really tight to the limit, you could cancel certain things. If you relied on state support, you're over £1,300 a month worse off. Now, that is a big gap to fill. And again, you can print this, you can email it. You say that you don't call it one of your processes, but just client to sign something to say you've shown them all of this, they're aware of the risks, they understand how they could be financially not in the best position. And for those of them that you just, unfortunately, it does happen, there will be some clients you can't get them to see the benefit, get them to sign it to almost say, we understand that should something happen, we can't phone you to say I need to claim on that policy.
On that point, Jo, but we do have a disclaimer that we use with clients, and we've used it previously for critical illness cover. What we tend to find is that if you come back to it again, do a proper job for a client, make them understand the requirements there and the need is there, and they'll take it.
Yeah,
and it's having confidence in what you do. So
100%.
you'll probably find that 1 in 100 might turn around and say, sorry, I don't believe what you're saying, it won't happen to me, I'm invincible. But as long as you act professionally, know your information, it doesn't happen that often. But yeah, we do have a disclaimer for that if anyone needs that.
So I think you've had enough of me harping on at you for the last 30, 40 minutes. Does that
protection products and stuff? I think that comes as a huge red flag when you talk about protection to anyone, and they just say, oh, you know, already
they think PPI.
Correct.
Yeah.
It immediately comes up, and then they say, well, you know, we're still getting letters through the post of how to claim back PPI, and I think it's a big scandal. It's a big scam. That is the kind of a thing that you come straight away. And how do you handle that?
So I think it's our job, you know, to make sure that the client understands what you're talking about and what these contracts are doing. It's not PPI. You know, you want to keep them in their home if they were really unwell, if they were diagnosed with a critical illness and had, heaven forbid, had to go through, you know, 18 months of chemotherapy, for example. It's our job to make sure that your client is understanding what we're talking about and, you know, using those visual aids, asking the right open questions to get them to realize these things will stop that PPI objection. If I'm honest, I've not heard that one for quite some time. I appreciate, you know, there is that perception, but I think we've probably broke the back of that one. But again, I think that's probably down to networks like Primus, directors like Mark, you know, that are giving the right coaching, the right feedback to make sure that you're presenting these contracts in a way that clients are going to understand what they're buying into.
You've hit the nail on the head there, Jo. What we offer is, it is. We offer a regulated process. We're not giving an insurance within an insurance that's an add-on or something added with the credit card that wasn't discussed. We've got to adhere to a sales process, and that's got to be documented. There's got to be letters gone out to the client with regards to the advice that was discussed and taken. And once that sales process is done, it's all filed. And really, that is what protects you as an advisor to make sure you've done your job correctly. So in the event of somebody making a complaint, what they do is they'll go straight to the client file and they'll look at what discussions were had, what illustrations were presented, were they done in the correct order, did it start with an initial disclosure? So because that regulated process, regulated through the Financial Conduct Authority, has been adhered to, then of course you can see that then discussions have been had with the client, and they, of course, again, wouldn't feel it's some kind of PPI kind of policy. It's a bespoke professional plan that's there for that individual or their family to give them that protection.
Brilliant.
Does that answer your question, Anu?
Yes.
Into being fantastic advisors. And like I said at the beginning, you know, listen to Mark, Kaylee, Shannon, and all the team. Oh, I'm echoing.
My fault.
Thanks. But yeah, honestly, listen to these guys and use me to help you as well. Yeah, thank you very much for letting me join.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna disappear.
Cheers, Joe.
Bye.
Bye. So everybody, we've listened to Joanne, and again, thank you for Joanne coming on. It's been really nice to hear about LV, objections, tools we can use with that provider as well. But what I want to now take us on to is the actual real side of the job. It doesn't matter how many discussions we have. How do we actually put a proposition together for a client? And how do we actually tailor something to a client's needs? So what you'll get access to as an advisor is a system called Solution Builder through iPipeline. Now, with regards to this, I've put a scenario together on the right-hand side you'll be able to see. And that scenario there talks about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They're both non-smokers. They've got a mortgage. They've got a mortgage debt of £250,000 over 25 years, and it's a standard repayment mortgage, so it's capital and interest. The mortgage balance is falling month in, month out, year in, year out. Now, it's a joint mortgage. Mr. and Mrs. both work. They're both employed. He earns £100,000. She earns £50,000 a year. Now, they do have children. They've got Tilly and Tommy, aged 2 and 5, and they're both employed, receiving 6 months full pay for sickness. So can I just ask that everybody unmutes themselves, please? Protection with this family.
Covering the mortgage.
In what sense?
Well, life and critical illness if they can afford it, but life cover joint if not.
Absolutely. So we can see they've got a mortgage debt. That debt, essentially, if something happened to Mr. or Mrs., we want to make sure that debt is cleared so that the roof over the head is protected. Shannon, you're on the call. Do you want to give us a bit of an update on what else we could protect there?
Income protection is always a given, purely because they only receive 6 months. You know, what are they going to do after the 6 months? So yeah, I would say income protection, definitely.
Brilliant. And then we've got Emma on the call. I believe you joined us, Emma. Just done.
I have.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
So we've talked about protecting the mortgage, Emma. We talked about income protection. It looks like there may be another need in there.
Yeah, we could look at critical illness cover as well. Life and critical illness cover, maybe cover a year's salary, 2 years' salary, 3 years' salary, depending on their budget.
So we're talking about family protection, aren't we? We're talking about offering something over and above the mortgage debt. And a saying that I use a lot, and if you've worked with me for years, you'll have heard me say this probably every week, is that protecting the mortgage debt is one thing, that's great, but you can't eat bricks. So we need a policy that essentially is covering a number of angles. One policy that's bespoke to a client. And what we do as an advisory service, we put together a professional portfolio of protection for them to make sure that firstly, the mortgage debt is covered. They've got a home. Secondly, they've got salary over and above by means of family protection. And then as Shannon mentioned, we can then look to cover for the likes of accident, sicknesses, disabilities in the event that their employer benefit ends after 6 months. What would they do beyond that period of time? And again, as Joe mentioned in there at LV. So I'm going to share a new screen with you. And this is the Solution Builder system we use. If I can find that. To get to see. Hang 1 second. Oh, second. Okay. Let's move that down. There we go. Move that down. Don't need that in a minute. Where have we gone? Might be this one. Haha. Refresh. Can everybody see that?
I can see a bar,
Record.
like literally just a bar.
Okay, strange. The joys of technology, huh? Let's see if I turn the sound section off, see if that helps. Here we go. How's that for you guys? Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not better. I do apologise. 1 minute.
The previous slide.
Let's have a look. Let's go onto Safari, see what's happening.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's back on.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the solution builder system. And what this does for us is it enables us to build a policy. Now, we just talked about that scenario where Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they've got a mortgage, they've got income, and they need to protect firstly the mortgage debt, and then they need to protect over and above for a multiple of salary. And then we can even look to building some income protection. So this system enables us to work with all the providers, Legal & General, Aviva, LV from Joanne, Vitality, and many more. So you can see the different products we have here. If we look at the decrease in term assurance policy there, I'm going to add that in. What we're then going to see is that we've got first life, second life, and joint life. Well, it was a joint mortgage. So we now need to have the joint mortgage. And we said it was 25 years. We'll start with life insurance. And we'll say it'll cover the debt of 250,000. And then we'll come right down to the bottom and save that benefit. You can see that a decrease in term assurance policy there has come in. That's a life insurance policy on a joint basis that falls in line with the mortgage being paid off. Now, as I said previously, that would be okay for many clients, but let's open it up really. Would it be? You can't eat bricks. It's just going to pay the mortgage debt off. Now, if someone had lost their husband, their wife, how are they going to continue to maintain the living costs, the council tax, the energy bills that are going through the roof at the moment, of course, the lifestyle, the shopping, etc. So they're going to need something over and above. And this is where a multi-plan comes in. So a multi-plan is multiple policies. So we're going to add an additional plan here of a level plan over and above. This is going to be firstly for Mr. First Life. And this time we're going to do it to his retirement age, which we'll say is 67. We'll stick with life cover for the minute and we'll give him a year's salary and come to the bottom and I'll save the benefit. Now you can see that we're protecting the mortgage, and if the Mr. was to die, the Mrs. would also receive £100,000 over and above. So it's a policy that's working in sync with each other. The problem there is that the Mrs. hasn't got any cover over the mortgage debt. So we need to do the same again. This time we're going to add the Mrs. in to her retirement age. We'll say 67. We'll stick with life insurance. We'll give her a year's salary. And we'll come to the bottom and add that in. So now you can see we've got a policy that firstly covers the mortgage, but then also covers a year's salary, one for Mr. and one for Mrs. So, Kaylee, in the event of Mr. dying, what happens?
The mortgage gets paid off and she gets a year's salary from him.
Absolutely. Lizzie.
Yeah.
Mrs. dies. What happens?
Same thing. The mortgage gets paid off, but he'll get a year's salary, 50k.
Absolutely. Lizzie, quick question. What happens if they get a critical illness?
They won't get anything.
Absolutely. So what I can do, I can go into this product and I can edit, and I can now set this for life and critical illness cover. Now we offer what's called life or earlier critical illness cover. I'll untick that. Life or earlier critical illness cover, which means in the event of either or, the policy would pay out. So now you can see the premium has gone times 10. So by means of critical illness cover, we tend to say it's between about 6 or 7 times more expensive than life insurance, because the likelihood of claiming is a lot higher. The likes of cancer, strokes, heart attacks, and everyone's related to cancer in one way or another that's now going to affect 1 in 2 of us. Of course, the likelihood of it paying out will be a lot more, so it's a bigger risk to the provider. But again, we can change the family protection over and above. We can lose the life cover, put 100,000 for the mister of life and critical illness is a difference. Of course, I've got to answer that. And now you can see how the premium changes. And then finally, we could do it for the missus. We could swap this for 50,000. We'll untick that one. We'll save it. It'll ask me another question as always. And then we'll save the benefit. So Lizzie, I've just asked you the question, what happens in the event of a critical illness? I know that's egg timer in, but while it's egg timer in, what we'll do is we'll say, now it happens, God forbid someone's, Mr. Smith is diagnosed with a critical illness. What happens now?
I don't know if there's any sort of timescales, but if it's critical illness, as long as they survive a certain period, then they'll get the life insurance paid out to cover the mortgage.
Absolutely. And also they get paid over and above from the family protection for the year's salary.
Yeah.
Now, this critical illness we've added in, as you can see, the total premium is now excessive, and clients are going to have a budget they want to work to. Now, while I mentioned that, and people wind me up about budget because I call it budget and not budget, but one thing you can say to a client is, you know, where is your budget? And they're going to turn around to you and say, don't know. I said, well, what do you want? Do you want cheap or do you want quality? And what do you think the answer will be if you ask that? Glenn, what do you want, cheap or quality?
Personally, I want quality.
Good answer. What clients tend to say is I want cheap and quality. They want both.
Both.
Exactly that. So the best way of working on this is to turn around to them and say, well, about £100, put a figure in their head and they'll go, oh, no, we're thinking less than that, maybe about 50. And then you can use 2 little words, and the 2 little words are up to. So when they say 50, you say up to, and they go maybe 70. So then you've just had an increase of your premium from your client to how you can go away and put together a recommendation like this for them. Because without that, you could come away and put together a recommendation of £212 as an example to cover them for mortgage protection of life and critical illness, family protection each life and critical illness. You could go back, you could make that recommendation, and they could just go, oh no, that's just too expensive. So you need something to work with a client. But that said, you've also met the need of the client there. So you could go with 2 options in your pocket. One to create an illusion of £212, and the other one to come in at, let's say, around £120. And then what the clients will do, they'll go, I want the cheaper option, because naturally they don't want to put much money into it. And you tend to get that mindset with 8 out of 10 people. Now, with regards to these covers, you can tailor these as much as you want. We could leave that at life and critical illness. We could go back to just life on these 2. We could go life only on the mortgage. We could leave these at critical illness and life. And then you can also add an income protection by means of a different policy. So I'll just quickly show you, just for one of the clients, that for Mr., if he wanted income protection to age 67, he wanted a monthly benefit of a couple of £1,000, and he has 6 months full pay. That's 6 months deferment. And don't worry about your criteria on this. We'll go over it in more detail another time. This policy now will give him £2,000 a month after 6 months. So now in the event of an accident, not a critical illness, he has a couple of £1,000 if he's off work beyond 6 months. In the event of a critical illness, they get a lump sum of salary and the mortgage paid off. In the event of death, they get the mortgage paid off and a lump sum. So now that is a multi-policy. So if we click quotes here, what happens is it puts that information, feeds it into the system, and puts out all the providers that are offering the quotes for you to be able to see. Now, this will load in a minute. And what you'll be able to see is a little button here called alternatives. Now, when we click that button, you can then see who's offering the policies at what price. Now, Vitality come out cheaper, and you'll get to see Hina's presentation in a few weeks. Zurich coming in next, and there's a reason why. Now, we're not going to go into detail with that now, but of course, being an advisor, you'll start to learn why one is more expensive than the other. One will include more features, more enhancements. It could be a better quality plan. And as you come down, you can see they get more expensive. So from LV's perspective, we've had Joanne on today. We could say, right, we want to choose this policy. We select the policy. It takes us back in, and the policy is then here. So this system solution builder is there for you to be able to use to then throw the covers into the LV platform, let's say, because we're choosing that one. And it will directly drag all the information over for you into that platform. And this might work actually for a change. And you'll be able to see that, very simple, the solution builder system links with your LV platform or your AIG or your L&G, whoever you're picking, and then throws it over to finalize the information to be able to give you that quote internally with LV where you'd want to proceed to an application. So with this, it's just asking about smoker status, and it's asking, are they registered with a GP? And it's registered in the UK. Yes. Yes. Smoker. So I'm going to stop the share there. The reason I wanted to show you that today is because when somebody like Joanne comes on the chat, and amazing what she's done, talking about cover, common objections, talking about types of cover, sometimes it's really good to see firsthand exactly what you will need to do and build for a customer. Because what you'll find a client has is they've got £100,000 worth of life insurance. And the question is, why? Why have you got £100,000 worth of life cover? What are you paying for at the moment, Mr. Client? I've got £1 million worth of life cover. Why have you got £1 million worth of life cover? Just sounded good. It just looked good. So as an advisor, we don't work that way. We work on the basis of putting together a policy that's bespoke to the clients. If they have a mortgage, protecting the mortgage debt, as we've just shown you, over and above to protect a multiple of the salary, and then including income protection if they need it. And then it is bespoke to that client then. So as their circumstances change, as your client, you will review their circumstances every couple of years and make sure that the policy is doing exactly what it should be doing for them. Now, I'm just going to jump back on the slide. With regards to all the new advisors that are coming in this month, you'll see here, we've got interim client referrals. So we've done it on a traffic light system. Now, within your period, up until your non-competency status and recruited with Primus, it's important to get some referrals in so you can witness the appointments with the advisors. Now, Rachel and Glenn, well done, amazing. Within your first week, you've hit double figures, Rachel, and Glenn, you've hit 9. Anu, Lizzie, Laura, Barry, and Megha, I'd encourage you to, network and speak to some friends, family, friends of friends, ex-work colleagues, people through social media. And the easy question initially is, do you currently have life insurance? And they're going to turn around to you and say either yes or no. And if they say yes, can we review it for you? And they'll say yes. If they say they haven't got any, say, have you thought about arranging it? And they'll say, yeah, we've never got around to it. And that's pretty much the answer you're going to get. So again, building some momentum with regards to be able to work with your experienced advisor. And then of course, from that, we'll move into your non-competency state where you'll be able to actually advise yourself once the Primus recruitment's been put together. Now, I'm just going to stop that share because it doesn't like me today. Now I've got the lovely Emma Brooke, who's been with Fortune Financial for, how long is it now, Emma?
Oh, it's coming up. Well, it's over 4 years.
Is it that long it is? Wow.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to, for the benefit of everyone here, and hopefully the screen will come on in a second. I'm sure it's egg timing at the minute, I believe. I wanted to ask Emma some questions because you're a self-employed advisor, aren't you, Emma?
I am indeed, yeah.
So with regards to you advising self-employed, let's just bring these questions up that I got ready for you. So I've put, you've been a successful self-employed advisor for many years. How do you find your clients? And I'm sure everyone on the chat wants to know that.
Well, as you'll get to know me, I do chat a lot. So yeah, one of my fortes is to chat to people. So I'm very into my fitness. I go to David Lloyd. I must admit, I've been there about 7 years now, so everybody kind of knows what I'm doing. But at the start, I used to just talk to people, and I used to work down in the bar there with my laptop, but I'd go odd hours. So people would actually talk to you, you know, and go, what do you do for work? 'Cause, like, you go in there unsocial, you know, like the hours where people work, and that kind of opens a conversation for me to go, oh, this is what I do.
Absolutely.
Ask like some open questions. You get dog walks. Yeah, I used to have my business. Well, I still do have my business cards on me all the time, and just generally talk to people. And then they generally automatically just say, "Oh, what do you do for work?" And that's just like a golden question. And then you could just reel off everything. So, yeah, I talk to. I'm not afraid to go into estate agents. Get talking to some accountants. Accountants are the best for this kind of job because they're obviously going through people's bank statements. If you kind of work with some to work with, you know, when you get your accountants for protection. So yeah. Oh, am I echoing?
So the joys of technology.
Yeah.
So next question for you, Emma.
Yeah.
Are you ready? You're on your toes.
Oh God.
I've put you work remotely. You're an Essex girl. You're over in Brentwood or that area. You visit the office, you know, now and again, maybe once a month. How do you keep yourself motivated being self-employed away from the team day to day?
Well, I'm always on the phone to the team, I must admit, but but you know, generally I start my day, like I say, I feel good. I'm quite a fitness freak, so I get out of bed 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym. It really gets my head in gear for the day. On the way out, I treat myself to a coffee. Next day or what business I'm going to write. But yeah, go to the gym and then I reward myself with a coffee, come back and work. And then I do try and have little breaks. Like I walk the dog, but when I walk the dog, I'm either networking or if I've got to make a selection of calls that I generally don't need my computer or laptop for, I'll go around the dog walk and do my phone calls. Yeah, which so I kind of multitask a little bit, but it gives me a bit of fresh air. And yeah, if I can talk to clients or I can talk to the likes of AIG or any kind of chases that I've got to do. Yeah, I'll do that. And I just keep moving about. I'll go to a coffee shop, you know, so I don't
I can see on the picture here, Emma, that there's a picture of you with a 501 Club certificate with Primus and a £2,000 one. Do you want to explain what that is to everyone just quickly, please?
Oh my God, look at that. I remember that day. Oh my God. Yeah. That's so long. Well, it weren't long ago, but I look so different. So you've got a 501 club, which is 501, which is protection premium. Like if you hit that, then you're in the 501 club, and then you've got 1001, and I managed to hit a 2001, didn't I, as well? In the
Absolutely.
Month
which is a great achievement. And when you think about it, the way you just said there, you network clients, you generate business from the back of business, you talk to people in the gym, in your coffee shops, etc. And to hit £2,000 of premium in a month, let's say that's 20 clients paid £100 each in a month. That income there for a self-employed advisor who's cash status is about £20,000 worth of income. So there's people in the network at the moment doing it on ridiculous levels, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 worth of premium. So protection is really a world where you can do very well for yourself.
Yeah. And if you do a good job with a client, and that's another thing I forgot to mention, the networking. They'll always recommend, and I'll get a lot of recommendations, which is nice. And I think they're the quality referrals, to be honest, when people recommend you.
Well, you might have answered my last question there then, Emma, because the last question was, what tip would you give to any of the new advisors starting out this year?
Oh, there's a few tips I would give. I would always say have structure, what I've learned in the past. Is structured stuff. Like if I'm healthy and I feel good about myself, mentally I'm going to do better.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is a great job, you know, and it is great. Every day is different, but have structure, have your vision bold, have your goals of what you want to achieve in front of you every day. But just with your targets, have a spreadsheet. What do you want to achieve each month? Break it down to week, break it down to day. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask people, but then people will just you just say, oh, you've got anyone you can recommend? We've got a great recommendation thing going on where you can recommend a friend and they get £50 vouchers, that type of thing.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Emma, with regards to the end bit, is that if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? And that's the big one. And people have a fear of asking, and I think it's more of a fear of loss. But if you don't ask, you lose anywhere. So, you know, asking for referrals and recommendations off your clients, if they're happy what you've done, they'll recommend the friends and the family. And the friends and family will want what you've done for their friends and family. So you're very good at that. No, thank you for answering them questions.
No problem.
So, just quickly share that in the final screen with you now, and it's just showing about the up and coming events we've got. So next week we've got Wendy Matthews from Zurich. She's coming on at about 7:15. Similar times throughout the rest of the month. We've got AIG, we've got Daniel Barrett, and then we've actually got Hina Sandhu. We've actually ditched a lion for on that event. We've brought Stanley in, the sausage dog. And the final event is going to be British Friendly, which is Debbie, and she's going to come in and talk things all income protection for us. From then on, we'll have other providers coming on as well. So hopefully tonight's been, you know, informative for you. Hopefully you pick something up of value. Again, as I started with earlier this evening, there's so much to know and so much to learn that within an hour and a half of an evening session, there's only so much you can touch on. But I think it hopefully has give you a slight overview in, you know, how we quote, how we can overcome some objections, and how the current members of the team are working at the moment. And I'd encourage you to, you know, work with the team, reach out to Emma, Kaylee, Shannon, Cade, and really, you know, use your mentors to make sure that you're picking up new knowledge and they're answering the questions that you need answering. So I'll open up the floor now. If anyone's got any questions, stay on the call and I'll get them answered for you. But if not, I just wish everyone a great evening. Again, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on here. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you something very quickly. Yeah, hi. I'm just I was thinking about sitting my exam, the first module next week. You told me there's some support for the CMAP.
Yes.
Would that be appropriate to ask about that? Or?
Absolutely, yeah. So our regional sales director within Primus is Dave Woodbridge. He's currently running the courses for CMAP 1, 2, and 3. CMAP 1 is done over a period of a week, or actually 4 days, I believe. And really, it's just a matter of us checking the availability for the next courses and working with yourself to see if we can get you on that event. Of course, because it's compressed down into a 4 or 5 day event, I'd expect, you're gonna have to put considerable amount of time into doing it that way. But as an alternative, of course, there's the other option of going direct to the London Institute of Banking and Finance and doing it over a period of your own time. If you feel you want to do it more flexibly over, a quarter of a year or whatever it may be. What's your preference for that, Anu?
So I have already booked in the CMAP one with LIBF, but it's on your own. You have to do it on your own. So I would really be happy to attend a course just to, if there is anything. I've already completed the studies, but I'm a little bit unsure about the exam. I just thought kind of a revision before I do the exam, but that would have been good. So I didn't know what kind of support is there.
Absolutely. So what I'll do for you this evening, I'll drop Dave an email to touch base with him on that, and I'll see when the next support is available for that for you. See if it works well with you, and I'll come back to you on that. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. It was very informative, and I really liked the evening as well, the first time.
Oh, thank you.
Looking forward to more.
Oh, much appreciated. And like I said, we'll keep improving on the sessions, and I think getting everyone together, we'll try and get people more engaged as time goes on. It's just technology, isn't it, that makes that difficult.
Yeah. So thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a good evening. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.